Many guns these days come with these vented fore ends or hand guards, and they are awesome. This one has a Picatinny rail on the top, and this gun shooting good and everything, but it was getting the shooter's hand black from gunpowder and oily from the gun oil. So I started thinking about that and looked for solutions online, and there's actually wraps that you can get that fold over this, and then they protect the hand from heat and hopefully from the oil and stuff. But the main attribute that you hear about when you're looking at these online wraps is that they're designed to keep your hand from getting burned, which is obviously a real thing, especially when you're shooting a lot of rounds. And so they're expensive, I thought, you know, and got to thinking about it and wondered if I could make one of my own. So I devised a version of my own from exhaust pipe tape, which is actually cloth webbing, really. And it's got this real high temperature, rating. And I was kind of hoping that I'd kill two birds with one stone by just using this tape. And so I made one out of this. I sewed these together here because I knew the thread didn't have to be heat resistant because it's going to be on the other side. So this is the side facing the barrel. And so what I did was I sewed 4 pieces together. I cut them to fit, and I wrapped it around the barrel, and I used some Velcro strapping, and this is 3/4 inch strapping, so it's that all-in-one where you just strap it around and it grabs itself. Took the gun out and shot it, and it did help a little bit with the blackness and the oil, but not 100%. So I went back to the drawing board, and I'm going to show you a little bit more about how I made this. And I got a piece of leather that is going to act as a shield. Now this is going to be on the outside, so it won't be affected by heat. And what I did was I just used some contact adhesive. Now this tape, this heat resistant exhaust tape, frays real easy, and you can see that it's fraying here. So when you cut it, the edges start to unravel almost immediately. So after I cut these 4 pieces, I actually, there's another piece on top here, but I actually sealed the edges with an adhesive. In this case, I use my new favorite adhesive, Gorilla Weld, because it sets up real quick. And I put this piece over the top because it, I didn't want any of the adhesive to somehow get stuck to the fore end of the gun. So I'm basically just putting this piece, and these little tabs here, just to keep any adhesive from sticking on the gun, you know. So everything's smooth. There's no adhesive at all here. And the way I have this set up, so when I wrap this around the gun, it's going to wrap like this. And I'm going to take another video. There'll be a part 2 here. And you'll notice that there's no leather here. It's because I wanted to wrap over the top of the Picatinny rail without leather on top. And so I don't want this to be too puffy up here. I basically just want the leather down from this area and then wrapping around just a hand guard, and not so much on top of the rail. Now this material does wrap all the way around, but it isn't going to stand real tall on top of this rail, if you get what I'm saying. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it. I've got 4 of these straps, and then I'll stitch the part 2 together before I upload the video. So this is basically that material installed, and it works great. And because you can see, you know, this system has still got plenty of ventilation, and that this material here is real easy to grab, and it feels really good, and it doesn't come up real tall onto this Picatinny rail. And anyway, it kind of solved the problem actually. And I know it probably doesn't look as good as the expensive ones online, but it sure does the trick. So just kind of going back, there's this tape here is frayed, is kind of, that probably may just come off at some point, but essentially what I did was took the 4 pieces of the exhaust tape and sewed them together. The threads are out here, so when I sewed it in, the threads are all going to be away from the heat. And then I sealed the edges of the tape. I cut them so that they're all even, and then I sealed the edges of the tape. I just laid these pieces over the top just to make sure none of the adhesive on that, you know, the critical tape got onto the barrel of the gun somehow. And I mean, it's all set up and everything, but just in case it gets hard and starts to want to get sticky again, it's not going to stick to the gun. And these are just 3/4 inch pieces of that self-sticking Velcro. And this is just a piece of leather, black leather, and I took the shiny side on the inside because I just wanted it to not be affected. So in other words, there's the shiny side of the leather, this is the inside or the rough side of the leather. And again, just to keep all the oil and the junk confined to this part of the gun, the inside. So when I take this off to clean the gun, you know, I could wipe that down or whatever if it's got any residue on it, which it would be harder to do on this rough side. And that's essentially it. I just wrap these around nice and snug. It's not going anywhere. I feel like 4 is a good number for these straps. You can add more, but I didn't want to go wider. I really do want this to be ventilated. And so even though this is snug and everything, I want all the airspace I can possibly get still here. So that's it.